this is one of those episodes that I've watched so many times to the point that it's really entertaining, and it's a showcase of how drinking too much coffee can bring out the worst in you, which is well in some occasions. But when you meet Icebell or see Icebell in this episode, you'll understand why he's one of those people. After they learned that Icebell is a barista by making great coffee, they decided to open a coffee business in the cave called the Coffee Cave. With the success that they're getting more and more people coming in, this is literally one of the best things that the Bears have accomplished, but at the same time, Icebell is doing most of the work, even though that Panda and Grizz are sending out people's coffees. But in all honesty, judging of how that Icebell is really capable of doing nearly everything, it's mostly impossible for Grizz or Panda to do most of the things, which kind of sums up onto how they're able to pay groceries and the electric bill. But that's just me though. Granted, the biggest reason onto why Icebell ended up becoming the monster in the second half of the episode is that Grizz and Panda want him to drink coffee in order to stay awake for the people in Coffee Cave. And to tell you the truth, judging of how that Icebell can't be able to handle caffeine, it really sums up the nature of how he ends up becoming the monster in the second half. Even though that Grizz and Panda really needed attention after opening the Coffee Cave in the first place, it shows that Icebell is really shy in comparison to Panda despite his interactions with other characters, because whenever I look at Icebell in these types of episodes, he is literally the shyest one, judging of how that most of the work that he's done for his brothers is mainly his specialty, while his weakest ability is talking to other people, and for the fact that he's willing to help out his brothers in order to get attention from other characters. If he was doing it for the attention, then I'm pretty sure that it would have ended up in the same way as his other future that he would have taken if he left the Bears in losing ice. The second half of the episode showcases of how his shyness can showcase how dangerous he is when it comes to him drinking too much coffee, and this is the only time we're ever going to see a character like Icebell being portrayed like this. Granted, it may happen in some occasions in different scenarios in this show where it only happens once, but this is a perfect example. This isn't an addiction of people enjoying the thing that they're having. This is an addiction of being fully controlled of coffee itself, which is basically in the same scenario as drugs controlling someone else, or basically anything worse than that, but what else is worse than drugs? It may be difficult to believe, but Icebell isn't smiling whatsoever in the second half, even though it's not part of his character, but judging of how that he wants coffee in order to have that coffee control him, in all honesty, those honestly a rare occasion of people being controlled by drugs in this type of scenario where they're only addicted to it, but not in the same ways as enjoying it. Because every time I see Icebell throughout the majority of this episode, Grizz and Panda had Icebell drink too much coffee for the sake of him staying awake, which in all honesty, if Grizz and Panda did the same thing, then this would have been a scenario where everyone would lose their minds. But judging of how that Grizz and Panda did less of the work in Coffee Cave, it's honestly not a good idea by having one person drink all the coffee for the sake of running the business. Because, in all honesty, if they would really had to make things a lot more simpler to solve those solutions, is mainly have one of them take a turn to make coffee. But judging of how that Icebell is an expert at making coffee, they will make Panda a poor barista in comparison of him being an artist. And when it comes to Grizz, well, let's just say that he will probably do a terrible job and not understanding the mean on being a barista in comparison to Icebell. When the smoke machine from the coffee maker smokes up the entire cave, we get to see Icebell climbing on ceilings, which really sums up the nature of how his addiction is a lot more different. Not to mention terrifying, just seeing how he is so addicted to coffee, especially with his red eyes. He manages to capture Panda, and just when he's about to kill Grizz, since that he was planning to use an axe against him, while Grizz was close to flushing the ingredients of coffee in the toilet, the addiction or coffee rush that Icebell has officially stopped. As it turns out, Icebell didn't really harm Panda. He just sung him a lullaby, and literally everything is back to normal, which leads to the bears closing Coffee Cave for good. Then again, judging of that lady who appeared towards the end of the episode, who was going to the coffee shop, and then the fact that she doesn't realize that there's a close sign on the Bear's Cave's door. It kind of sums up the nature that the more I watch these episodes, the more stupid the San Francisco people are, even when they're selfish. Granted, it does showcase the nature of the Bears realizing how selfish the San Francisco citizens are in some occasions, but since that wasn't really the major focus when it comes to the events of the film, it will probably be a mystery we'll never know. With that being said, this episode is one of the reasons onto why I rewatch this show from time to time, because it's really entertaining, and the fact that we get to see the craze side of Icebell. Not the side that we witnessed from him and Panta from Season 1, but in a way where it showcases that people can have an addiction, but not in the same kind. If we did receive a Charlie's Halloween Thing 3, I would love to see a story involving Icebell and his coffee addiction. That would have been interesting to witness. Even though that there are many different possibilities involving Halloween ideals, but in all honesty, this is honestly a candidate, but not a top candidate when it comes to people's opinions on what they want to see for a season 5 of We Built Bears. That's never going to happen, sadly. I'm giving this episode a 7.75 out of 10.